My daughter forgot to hang up the phone. That's how I heard her say it, cold flat final. She has to go to a nursing home. Maybe not soon, just has to. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just listened until they hung up for real. 3 days later, they sold my house for $890,000. Didn't even tell me. They left for a business trip like everything was normal, smiling, carefree, already dreaming about their next chapter. But when they came back, the key didn't fit. There was a note on the door, and when they read it, they started screaming. My name is Zadie. I'm a 62-year-old widow. I built that house with my husband's bare hands, raised my daughter in it, and poured 30 years of my life into every corner. I thought I was just getting old, but apparently I was becoming extra. So I disappeared quietly until it was their turn to be left on the outside. I'm about to share something close to my heart. But before I do, can you say hi in the comments or tell me where you're from? I love hearing how far my story reaches. It's always good to know I'm not alone in this. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. If my story means something to you, even just a little, I'd be grateful if you'd tap subscribe. Not because I'm looking for numbers, just so I know this voice, this pain, this truth was heard. Thank you for being here. I was standing by the kitchen sink, rinsing off the last plate from dinner, when my phone buzzed with a call from Avalon. Her voice was unusually sweet, laced with that brand of careful concern she used whenever she wanted something. Hey, Mom. Just checking if that grocery app I set up for you is still working. You got the Tylenol right? I told her yes, of course, and added that I was fine. She asked if I needed anything else. I said no. I smiled when I answered her, even though she couldn't see me. It's what mothers do. We hung up. Or at least I thought we did. I set the phone down next to the sink, started wiping the counter when her voice came through again, this time flat businesslike, and not meant for my ears. She has to go to a nursing home, she said. Soon, Caspian added, the house is a gold mine, she continued. Zillow says at least $890. If we list now, we can close by the time we're back from Charlotte. And lock down the Nashville place, Caspian chimed in. I didn't move. I didn't blink. A spoon slipped from my hand and clattered against the tile floor. The grandfather clock, Silas's clock, kept ticking behind me, loud and steady, like it was counting the seconds of the life they were about to sell out from under me. They were planning to erase me. I walked down the hallway in a daze, past the stairwell where Avalon scraped her knees learning to walk, past the spot on the floorboard where Silas's work boots always left a scuff, into the living room still lit with the warm glow of the evening sun through our bay window. The house wrapped around me like a memory, but now every inch of it hurt. In the drawer below the credenza, I found the deed, my name alone, untouched since Silas passed. I ran my fingers across the embossed lettering, proof of something I still owned, something no one could take, not without a fight. On the mantel sat our wedding photo. I took it down, slowly laid it face down on the table. Next to it, a business card, Thackeray Bloom, Estate and Property Law. I slipped it into my coat pocket. I didn't cry. I didn't call Avalon. I didn't confront them. I simply made a choice. I would speak with actions, not words. That night, my phone buzzed again. A text from Avalon. Don't forget spa weekend next Friday. Our treat, love you. I turned off the screen. Tomorrow morning, I'd see Thackeray Bloom. Thackeray's office smelled like polished wood and old paper, the kind of place where decisions were made, not guessed. He listened as I told him every word of the phone call. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. Just facts. When I finished, he opened his laptop, scrolled through a few tabs, and nodded. The deed's clean, he said. Your name only. No liens. Property taxes current. He paused. But this part, this changes things. He reached for a manila folder on his shelf and pulled out a printed document, Durable Power of Attorney. My name was on it, so was Avalon's. She brought this in 2 months ago, Thackeray explained, said it was just a draft. Wanted to know what was needed to validate it, but it's missing your signature and 2 witnesses. So we didn't process it. My stomach turned. 2 months ago, she was already planning this. And all those little comments about helping with the pharmacy or needing access to my prescriptions, they weren't kindness. They were rehearsals. If they push for a mental capacity evaluation, Thackeray continued and claim you're no longer fit to manage your affairs, they could file for guardianship, especially if they've got that draft on hand. I asked him what I could do, not to react, but to act. His answer was clean and swift: sell the house. Fast. On my terms while I'm still ahead. Close quickly. Keep it quiet. 10-day close, I asked. I can line up a buyer. Cash only. But we need to start today. He laid out the steps with military precision. We'd set up a temporary trust to hold the funds securely. He'd serve as my legal proxy, but only for the transaction. All communication with the buyer would go through his office. Once closed, I'd have 30 days to vacate at my own pace. I nodded. No hesitation, no sentiment, just strategy. He handed me a checklist: property inspection title verification, secure transfer account, backup mail redirect, lock change plan. As I stood to leave, he said gently, "They may try again. People like that don't stop when they smell money." I nodded once opened the door. My phone buzzed. A new voicemail? Silver Pines Care confirms medical wellness retreat next Friday for Zadie Hart. Deposit received via card ending 5801. See you soon? I froze. That was my card, and I never booked anything. I stared at the screen, feeling the blood drain from my hands. They weren't waiting for me to fade. They were planning to remove me, not if I removed them first. Keaton Wild showed up just before sunset clipboard in hand blue button-down crisp, and tucked the kind of man who didn't waste time with polite small talk. He stepped through the front door, took one sweeping glance at the bay window where the light poured across the hardwood, and said, "This place could list at $890 easy." He walked the perimeter, tapped at the granite counters, checked under the sinks. "I have a buyer. Cash. No appraisal, no contingencies. We could close in 10 days. I nodded. "How discreet can we make this?" He didn't ask why. He simply said, "As discreet as you want. My team will do the walkthrough tomorrow. You won't need to speak to anyone but me." That night, I visited Blue Ridge Community Bank and sat down with a woman named Nora in their private banking suite. I opened a premium-level account under my full legal name, established dual-factor authentication, set wire limits, and ensured that no previous accounts, especially the joint ones Avalon helped me open for online groceries, were linked. I instructed Nora to receive a wire transfer in full upon closing. She understood. On my way home, I stopped at a tech store. I bought a small security camera shaped like a phone charger, motion-activated, app-connected. I plugged it in near the entryway, perfectly angled to catch whoever walked through that door and whatever they saw. Then I called Ace 828 Locksmith. The moment the house was under contract, I wanted the locks changed. Front door, back door, garage, all reset with no duplicate keys left behind. I scheduled the installation for the day after signing. Quiet, clean. I also called a moving service. I instructed them to come wrap and pack only the items clearly marked with Avalon or Caspian's names, boxes they left in my attic designer shoes, a broken keyboard, some books labeled office they never read. I sent everything to Pisgah Storage under Avalon's name, 30-day hold. I kept the receipt. On Wednesday, Mabel Patterson next door waved me down as I collected mail. "You doing any renovations?" she asked. "I saw someone outside last week snapping pictures of your front porch. Real estate stuff, maybe." Thought it was strange. The same day, the mailman mentioned a redirect form had been submitted for my address mail to be forwarded to Nashville, but the process was incomplete. He held up the notice. "Wanted to check with you before I approved anything." They were already moving me out one silent form at a time. That night, I gathered my own files, a photo of the voicemail from Silver Pines, the incomplete redirect slip, Mabel's comment scribbled and signed, and the packing receipt from Pisgah. I sent them to Thackeray with the subject line, "Building our case." His reply came fast. "We sign tomorrow. Be ready. It's moving quickly now." And then right on cue, Avalon called. "Mom," she chirped too brightly, "we booked you a weekend getaway little retreat with doctors on site. It's going to be so relaxing." I smiled into the phone. "How sweet. I've got a surprise for you, too." I ended the call. I took a plain white envelope and placed it on the table. Then I began to write. At 9 a.m. the next morning, I sat across from Keaton at his downtown office and signed the purchase agreement. $890,000, a 10-day close, a 30-day grace period for me to vacate if needed, all cash notarized recorded, no turning back. Keaton made 2 additional copies, one for me in hard form, one digitally secured, everything above board. I drove home through back roads, feeling every bump in the pavement, every turn familiar and final. Once inside, I checked the hidden camera. It worked perfectly. The image was crisp. The angle was clean. It captured everything from the doormat to the top of the stairs. Most importantly, it caught the front door and the envelope I planned to tape to it. I opened the app, triggered the motion sensor, manually tested audio. The system caught every sound. I walked in and out 3 times to be sure. Then I called the locksmith. 2 hours later, the house had new locks. Front door, back door, garage. I kept 3 keys and hid them in separate places. One in my wallet, one under Silas's old toolbox, one on a chain I wore around my neck. I sat down at the dining table and began rewriting the letter. 5 drafts later, I had something that said everything I needed: the facts, the betrayal, the boundaries. It wasn't cruel, but it didn't pull punches. I signed it with my full name. Not Mom, not Love, always, just Zadie Hart. I placed the letter inside the envelope, sealed it, and left it by the door. While cleaning up the kitchen, I lifted the lid of a tea tin and found something small and metallic, a recorder. One of those pen-sized devices Caspian always kept around for interviews and quotes. It was switched on, hidden, recording. I turned it off and dropped it in a drawer marked evidence. Before sunset, the moving team returned. I stood by while they boxed up every trace of Avalon and Caspian's things, carefully, respectfully, but with zero hesitation. Everything labeled, everything inventoried. The camera watched it all. When they left, I rolled my own suitcase into the guest room. I brought only what I needed: my wedding photo, my savings ledger, my laptop, a few changes of clothes, and Silas's tea set. The rest of the house felt unfamiliar now, like I was already gone, floating above a life I used to live. Just before bed, my phone buzzed. "Sunday, we're coming to get you for Silver Pines. You'll love it there, Mom." So peaceful. I typed back one word: definitely. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Avalon. "Mom, don't overpack. Just essentials, your meds, glasses, a couple of books. That's all you'll need for now." I typed back a heart emoji and a thumbs up. Then I stared at the screen a long while before digging into the shared travel calendar she'd sent. I tapped the booking ID she forwarded earlier and traced it. It wasn't a car service. It was a one-way Greyhound ticket, departing Sunday morning. Final destination, a long-term medical facility near Nashville, Tennessee. This wasn't a weekend retreat. They were moving me across state lines, out of North Carolina, away from the legal protections of my home jurisdiction. I called Thackeray from my backup phone, kept my voice low. He picked up immediately. I laid it out. He went quiet for a beat, then said, "If they get you out of state under the claim that you're unable to decide for yourself, they can file for emergency guardianship in Tennessee. That state's threshold is looser. You'd lose everything." I opened the Voice Memos app and recorded myself slow and steady. "My name is Zadie Hart. I am of sound mind and body. I have not given consent to leave North Carolina. Any attempt to relocate me is against my will and in violation of my civil rights." I sent the file to Thackeray along with a GPS pin and timestamp. Then I opened my banking app and changed every password, removed all linked accounts, canceled shared access. I disabled location tracking. I rerouted all incoming mail to a new digital inbox. I closed the iCloud account Avalon set up for me years ago and opened a fresh one she couldn't trace. By nightfall, Caspian's name popped up on a Google alert. I had set an obscure court document uploaded to a digital docket. He'd filed a petition unsigned but pre-drafted with claims that I was no longer competent to manage assets over $100,000. He called it preventive guardianship for the safety of a declining parent. He even listed the estimated value of the home. They weren't waiting for me to fade. They were scripting my exit in advance. And so I put on the softest smile I could. Can't wait for the spa trip, I texted Avalon. Hope there's chamomile tea. At midnight, another message lit up the screen. Mom, rest up. Sunday starts your new life. I looked at the camera feed. The envelope still sat, taped to the door, perfectly untouched, bathed in late afternoon sun. I smiled back. 5:14 p.m., Sunday. The motion alert pinged. I opened the live camera feed. Caspian's black SUV pulled into the driveway, gliding in like it belonged. Avalon stepped out in a light coat phone in hand, humming. They had the air of people returning to claim what was already theirs. Week from now, Caspian said, dragging their suitcase. We'll get the papers signed and transfer the title. Then we're out. Avalon laughed, twirling her keys. I told Mom it was just a getaway. She thanked me. I almost felt guilty. She stepped up to the front door and slipped the key into the lock. It didn't turn. She tried again. Her smile froze. Caspian came up behind her. Wrong key. Same one I've always used. He tried the back door. Nothing. Garage didn't budge either. I watched the frustration bloom on their faces. She knocked, then banged. He circled the house, rattling every knob. No answer. No entry. Finally, Avalon crawled through the side window she used to sneak out of as a teenager. Inside, the camera caught her eyes scanning the living room. Then she froze. White envelope. Center of the table. Addressed in my hand. Caspian climbed in behind her. He picked up the letter and read silently, line by line. I watched their expressions shift from confusion to shock to dread. The letter spelled it all out. The house had been sold. The funds were in a secure account under my name. I had moved out of reach. And lastly, you chose a facility for me. Thoughtfully. Now I return the kindness. Time to rest. Think. And maybe grow up. Avalon sank to the floor. We can't undo this, she whispered. Caspian was pacing. So what, now you think she's going to forgive us? You think this ends with a letter? He tore at his collar. No house, no cash. I got laid off. Your job barely covers car insurance. She looked up. You said we'd handle it. You said she was slipping. I said we'd play her. She played us. And then I tapped my phone screen. The audio recording began to play through the camera speaker. She has to go to a nursing home. Soon. The house is a gold mine. If we list now, their own voices filled the room. Avalon covered her mouth. Caspian spun in place, looking for the source. He found the camera too late. Who else heard that he shouted? Thackeray Bloom. I answered to myself in my new apartment miles away. The entire feed was uploading to a secure cloud drive. Every word, every step. They crumbled right there on the hardwood I had once polished with Avalon's tiny hand in mine. Caspian sat against the wall, stunned. Avalon buried her face. She's my mother, she cried. I whispered into the silence. Only when you remember how to be a daughter. Later that evening, I opened a bottle of wine Silas had tucked away for our 30th anniversary. I poured a glass-steady, hand-quiet room. Justice doesn't scream. It waits, and when it arrives, it doesn't knock. It has a key of its own. The morning after, I woke early, without an alarm. Light seeped gently through the blinds of my new apartment. The air was cool, and somewhere on the floor below, someone was brewing coffee. I stood by the window for a while, letting the morning steady me. I sat down at my small desk and opened my laptop. Blue Ridge Community Bank's login screen blinked back at me. I typed in my new credentials, double authenticated through the app Thackeray helped me set up. The account balance still read $890. Hollers unbothered, untouched, fully mine. I initiated the transfer. The funds would move from my standard account to a 5-year locked investment portfolio, only accessible by me with no power of attorney, granted not even to Thackeray, unless authorized directly by my own signature. The kind of account designed for absolute legal ownership, a final wall, impenetrable. Then I turned to my inbox, subject line contingency shield, for legal safekeeping. Attached were all the files I'd compiled over the last 10 days, the full video of Avalon and Caspian discovering the letter, the original audio clip of the call Avalon forgot to end, the voice memo I recorded stating my cognitive clarity and autonomy, Mabel Patterson's written statement that she'd witnessed strangers photographing my home, the image of the USPS redirect slip that had been half completed, the email confirmation from Silver Pines medical residence showing a deposit made from my own card, the storage receipt from Pisgah with Avalon's name listed, a timestamped screenshot from my banking app showing an attempted login from an IP address based in Nashville last week. I addressed the email to Thackeray Bloom and CC'd it to a second attorney I'd once met at a senior legal aid seminar, someone completely uninvolved, chosen precisely for that reason. Then I drafted a second version. This one stripped of financial details. I sent it to Mabel. She'd watched this neighborhood for 30 years. If anyone tried to rewrite what happened, she'd know what to say. I paused before uploading one last file, the clip of Avalon and Caspian reading my letter. In it, they stood silent, shredded open by their own arrogance. I labeled the video, "For private use only, release only if legally necessary." Then I uploaded it to a secure drive, double encrypted, synced to my new cloud. My hand hovered over the mouse. One last check, all was in place, and then I clicked send. 3 emails, 3 lifelines, 1 truth. A small notification slid across the screen. Your message has been sent. I closed the laptop, sat still, and finally I exhaled. It was over. 3 weeks passed. The air had shifted. Summer had softened into something slower. I was living quietly now in a modest unit at a senior community overlooking the Blue Ridge foothills. My apartment was small, warm-colored walls, a reading chair by the window, and a tea kettle that whistled exactly once before shutting off. I walked to Roman Roost that morning. Not for coffee, I already had my cup. But I had a feeling, the kind that sits low in your bones. She arrived 5 minutes after I did. Avalon walked in like someone stepping into a memory. She scanned the cafe slowly, as if hoping I wouldn't be there. But she saw me. Her face didn't change. She walked over. "Can I sit?" I nodded. She looked thinner, paler. The glitter in her eyes, once weaponized for charm, now dulled to something nearly human. Her hands trembled when she took off her coat. I said nothing. I let her start. After a long silence, she asked quietly, "Did you ever love me?" I kept my voice steady. "I loved a little girl named Avalon very much." Her lips trembled. "We never meant... not like that. Not all of it." I slid a small manila envelope across the table, a single key inside. "To the storage unit," I said. "Everything of yours is in there. Safe. Untouched. Just not mine to keep anymore." She looked at it but didn't touch it. I stood, took my coat. "You had a family once," I said gently, "but you sold it before you ever listed the house." She didn't look up. She didn't have to. The door chimed behind me as I stepped back into the sun. The street was quiet. The same quiet as the first time I brought her home from the hospital, bundled in a blanket not yet old enough to lie. Later that evening, I sat alone in my apartment. The wine glass caught the last of the sunset. On the counter sat a folded newspaper. Somewhere on page 6B was a headline, "Local Woman Sells Family Home in Rare All-Cash Deal." No names, no noise, just a final period. I opened my journal. I didn't seek revenge, I wrote. I just stopped accepting harm. I placed a photo of Silas on the desk. The one where he's laughing, head back, eyes crinkled. Then I looked at the mirror across the room. The woman reflected back wasn't a mother, not a widow, not a burden. Just a person. Just me. For the first time in years, I smiled. "Hello, Zadie."